Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating journey into something every single one of us at some point actively seeks happiness. But what if the very act of searching, chasing after it, is precisely what prevents us from truly finding it?
It's a profound question, isn't it? A real head-scratcher. Our exploration today, it really challenges many of our ingrained beliefs about happiness. It suggests it's not some elusive destination we have to reach, but maybe, just maybe, a state we already inhabit.
Already inhabit, okay.
Yeah. So we're going to unpack this idea. We'll explore why we might have been sort of conditioned to look externally for it, and hopefully uncover what it truly means to find fulfillment from within.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So get ready, everyone, because you might need to reconsider everything you thought you knew about being happy. This deep dive might just reveal that, the treasure you've been searching for, you might have been carrying it all along. Now, let's dive in. Many of us, maybe most of us, grow up with this idea, right, that happiness is a prize. It's something you earn after you achieve a certain goal. We see it reinforced constantly. Media, maybe school, even our family sometimes.
Absolutely. It's almost as if we've been handed this script from day one. Like a carrot on a stick scenario playing out constantly. There's always some external reward just out of reach.
Yeah, that carrot.
Yeah.
It keeps you moving, but you never quite get to eat it, do you?
Exactly. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how deeply ingrained this external chase becomes. Psychologically speaking.
Yeah.
When we're always focused on what's missing, on what we don't have yet, we end up cultivating this perpetual state of scarcity in our minds.
Scarcity.
Yeah.
Even if we objectively have a lot.
Yes, precisely. Because the focus is always on the next thing. Society, in many ways, sort of whispers to us, maybe even shouts sometimes, you are worth what you have or what you achieve. So it ties happiness directly to these external things, the new car, the perfect house, that dream job, the latest phone.
Oh, the phone. So that's a classic example. You get the new one, feels amazing for, a week? Maybe two?
We are lucky.
Then you see the next model advertised, or your friend gets something cooler, and suddenly yours doesn't feel quite so shiny anymore.
Right. The initial joy from a new purchase or even a big accomplishment, while it feels real in the moment, it often fades remarkably quickly. It's fleeting.
It really is. It's almost like we're constantly trying to fill a bucket, but the bucket's got a hole in the bottom. You just keep pouring water in, looking for a bigger tap, but it keeps draining out.
That's a great analogy.
And what's truly important, things like your health or your loved ones.
Yeah.
We often only realize their immense value when we face the painful prospect of losing them. That feeling, that potential loss, it's vastly different from worrying about losing a material possession, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Worlds apart. That contrast really highlights the superficiality of purely material happiness. And it really makes you wonder, what's happening to us psychologically when we're constantly caught in that cycle? That cycle of brief satisfaction followed by more chasing, always looking for the next fix.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting just talking about it.
It is exhausting. It keeps us in this perpetual state of future orientation, always thinking, okay, when I get X, then I'll finally be happy. Instead of, actually being present and appreciating what is right here, right now.
Okay, so we've talked about the pitfalls, the exhaustion of this external chase. But what if the whole idea, the premise itself, is wrong? What if searching outside ourselves is just the wrong direction entirely? What if instead of searching, we just opened our eyes to what's already here? There's this radical idea, and it's at the heart of a lot of wisdom traditions, that asks, what if you are already happy?
Already happy. That's quite a shift in perspective, isn't it? It suggests happiness isn't some distant mountain peak we have to struggle to climb.
Yeah.
Instead, it's sometimes described as like a thin and delicate film, just separating our current self from our happiest self. It's almost transparent.
Wow. So it's close.
Extremely close. It's this powerful notion that our happiness is fundamentally an internal state. Something we decide. It's not dictated by our bank balance or our job title or what other people think.
Okay, but what about people facing really difficult circumstances, like severe injustice or poverty? Does this still apply?
That's a really important point to acknowledge. And no, we absolutely have to recognize the immense suffering caused by systemic issues, by violence, by lack of basic needs. For someone facing profound injustice, simply deciding to be happy isn't realistic or even appropriate. But for those of us who do have a degree of autonomy, some control over our daily lives and choices, this idea offers incredible liberation.
Liberation. Yeah, I can see that. Freedom from that constant chase. So if it's internal, where do we find it? Is it in big epiphanies?
Sometimes maybe, but often it seems to be found in the simple, everyday moments, the ones we usually overlook because we're too busy chasing the big stuff.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, think about a genuine smile from a customer, or maybe just a stranger on the street. That tiny connection. Or the sheer freedom of realizing you get to decide how to spend the next 10 minutes of your life. That's huge, actually.
Yeah. We take that for granted.
Totally. Or just that quiet awareness of yourself being. Sitting, breathing, just noticing you exist in this moment. Seeing the way sunlight streams through a window. You know, those little things.
Or even maybe like calling someone you miss. Or just allowing yourself the feeling of missing them, that bittersweet ache.
Exactly. Those seemingly small, mundane experiences hold so much potential for contentment, for presence. This radical idea that happiness is inherent, it's our default state, it directly challenges so much of modern consumer culture, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, think about advertising. Products aren't just sold to solve a problem anymore. They implicitly, sometimes explicitly, promise a happier you.
Ah, right. Buy this, be happy.
Precisely, which constantly tells us we're currently incomplete, that our joy is external, waiting to be purchased or acquired. It's a powerful illusion.
An illusion.
But when we start to recognize that maybe our essence, our core self, is already whole, already pure and authentic, that, the wonder and beauty of existence are already in us, it's a profound shift. It moves us from that state of doing things to get happy towards simply being present to experience the happiness that's already available.
From doing to get to being to experience. I like that.
It really prompts us to consider, doesn't it? How much of our perceived unhappiness stems from a trained inability, an inability to simply see the abundance and joy already present in our lives.
Okay, this idea of happiness being internal, already here, it's compelling, but it still feels a bit abstract for some, maybe. To make it more concrete, let's talk about someone who seems to embody this philosophy. There's this figure, famously though maybe jokingly known as the happiest man in the world, Matthew Ricard.
Ah, yes. The molecular biologist turned Buddhist monk. His story is fascinating.
When his brain has been studied extensively, right?
Yeah.
By neuroscientists.
It has. But it's really crucial to understand what they actually found and how Ricard himself used that title. He often says the happiest man in the world label is, well, a big joke and scientifically pretty nonsensical.
Oh, really? Why?
Because the research finding wasn't actually measuring his overall happiness level directly. What it showed was that during meditation on compassion, his brain exhibited unusually high sustained levels of activation in areas linked to compassion. We're talking gamma waves, levels that were apparently off the charts, never before detected in neuroscience literature at the time.
Wow. Okay, so compassion, not just general feel-good happiness. That's a critical distinction. So what is happiness to him then, if it's not just, a string of pleasant sensations one after another?
That's exactly what he says it isn't. He argues that chasing an endless succession of pleasant sensations actually leads to exhaustion. Think about it. It's unsustainable.
Yeah, that sounds like the hedonic treadmill again.
Precisely. Instead, Ricard defines happiness, or perhaps a better term is genuine well-being or flourishing, as an optimal state of being. And it's cultivated through developing a rich combination of fundamental human qualities.
Like what?
Things like altruism, deep compassion, inner freedom, resilience when things get tough, emotional balance, and a sense of inner peace. And the truly key insight here is that he views these not as fixed traits, but as skills.
Skills, like playing the piano or learning a language.
Exactly like that. Skills that can be developed, practiced, and strengthened through consistent effort and mind training, like building a muscle.
Okay, that's empowering.
It really is, and his own life seems to reflect this. He describes having had a wonderfully satisfying life, being easily content with very little, and notably, he donates all his earnings from his books and photography to humanitarian projects through his organization, Karuna Shechen. He says this brings him immense satisfaction.
So his secret to happiness, if you want to call it that, really boils down to altruism and compassion, helping others.
That seems to be at the core of it. He makes a very compelling case that the purely egoistic pursuit of one's own happiness is often a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
It can make you miserable, and it often makes life difficult for those around you.
Right, we've all met people like that.
Whereas altruism, genuine care and concern for the well-being of others, he argues, creates a win-win. It benefits others, and it brings deep fulfillment to oneself.
What about things like wealth or pleasure? Does he say those are inherently bad?
Not inherently, no. He has some interesting insights there. He suggests it's not the desire for wealth or pleasure itself that causes suffering, it's the attachment to them, the clinging, the obsession. That's what leads to torment, when you need them to feel okay.
Ah, the attachment. That makes sense. It's about the relationship to the desire, not the desire itself.
Precisely. And this whole perspective really underscores the idea that happiness isn't some fixed state you're lucky enough to find, or a genetic lottery you win. It's a dynamic capacity, something that can be actively developed and strengthened, and that focus on compassion as a primary pathway. It's really quite profound, I think.
Yeah. What about sadness, though? If we're aiming for well-being, does that mean we should never feel sad?
Not at all. Ricard is very clear on this. He says it's absolutely normal and desirable to feel sadness, empathy, and concern when faced with injustice, poverty, suffering, or abuse in the world. The key difference is that this sadness shouldn't lead to paralyzing despair or burnout. Instead, it should serve as a catalyst, a motivation for compassionate action, taking steps, however small, to alleviate suffering. So, in his view, sadness, when channeled constructively, is entirely compatible with genuine flourishing and deep well-being.
That's a relief, actually, because the pressure to always be happy can be immense. But okay, this brings up a big question for many people listening, I bet. Can anyone achieve this? Or is this kind of inner peace and compassion thing really just for monks, or people who dedicate their entire lives to meditation up on a mountain somewhere?
That's a common misconception, but Ricard himself confirms that this path to well-being is absolutely not limited to Buddhists or monks. Not at all. He stresses that anyone can cultivate these qualities, kindness, compassion, openness, resilience, right in the midst of their everyday lives. A key part seems to be learning to be more easily satisfied with external conditions, not constantly needing more, more, more.
And it's not about being born happy either. Like, some people just seem naturally cheerful.
Well, yes, temperaments differ, genetic tendencies might exist, but that's not the whole story, not by a long shot. Ricard points to cutting-edge science here. Fields like epigenetics.
Epigenetics. Remind me what that is.
It's basically the study of how our behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way our genes work. It doesn't change the DNA sequence itself, but it influences gene expression. And he also points to neuroplasticity.
Ah, the brain's ability to change itself.
Exactly. Our brain's incredible capacity to reorganize itself, to form new neural connections throughout life, based on our experiences and, crucially, our training. So this isn't just wishful thinking. It means we can actively train our minds, change our ingrained patterns, maybe even overcome some of our predispositions. He even admitted quite openly that he himself was apparently a pretty grumpy teenager.
Huh. Okay, there's hope for all of us then. That's incredibly empowering, isn't it? It means we're not just stuck with the mental or emotional hand we feel we've been dealt. So, okay, if happiness or well-being is truly internal and trainable, what are the main things holding us back? What are the primary obstacles that keep us from recognizing it or cultivating it? And maybe more importantly, how do we shift our mindset to actually live it?
That's the core question, really, the obstacles. Well, they are numerous and often quite insidious because they're self-imposed, operating inside our own minds. A big one is just a distracted mind, a mind that's constantly jumping around, unable to focus, or a mind consumed by rumination.
Ruminating.
Yeah.
Like chewing over the same negative thoughts again and again.
Exactly. Replaying worries, grievances, anxieties, that's a huge barrier. Exacerbated self-importance or ego is another one. Always focusing on me, me, me. And you mentioned societal pressure earlier.
Yeah, the pressure to always be happy.
That itself can be a huge obstacle. It leads to intense guilt or feeling like you're somehow defective if you're not constantly radiating joy, which is impossible, of course.
Right. It's okay to not be okay sometimes.
Absolutely. Then there's basic mental confusion, a lack of discernment or wisdom about what truly leads to well-being versus what leads to suffering. We can become, in a sense, slaves to our own mental fabrications, things like intense hatred, compulsive desires, consuming jealousy, or arrogant pride. These are powerful forces.
Slaves to our own minds.
Yeah. It sounds dramatic, but think about it. We can even become sort of addicted to our own suffering, or blindly follow these afflictive mental states without questioning them. Our mind's role here is just critical. It truly can be our best friend or our worst enemy. It's the lens through which we experience everything. It translates external circumstances into either happiness or misery, depending entirely on how we engage with them, how we process them.
That makes so much sense. It really feels like often we're fighting ourselves without even realizing it. caught in these mental loops. So, okay, if we start to recognize these obstacles in ourselves, the distraction, the rumination, the attachments, what's the path forward? What's the way towards this inner freedom and more authentic happiness? Where do we even begin? It can feel overwhelming.
It can feel overwhelming, but the starting point is actually quite simple, though not necessarily easy. It begins with acceptance, profound acceptance, and even enjoyment of the present moment. Embracing the idea that being here now, that is enough.
Enough, not needing anything else.
In that fundamental sense, yes. Realizing the happiness isn't somewhere out there that you have to reach. It's the ground you are already treading. It's here. And a key practice for accessing that is mindfulness.
Mindfulness. We hear that word a lot. What does it mean in this context?
It means being truly present, intentionally, without judgment in your everyday activities, whatever you're doing. So when you wash the dishes, just wash the dishes. Feel the warm water, see the soap bubbles, notice the movement of your hands. Don't be mentally composing emails or replaying an argument.
Okay.
When you listen to music, really listen. Let the sounds wash over you, notice the nuances. Don't just have it on as background noise. When someone is speaking to you, give them your full attention. Listen to understand, not just to wait for your turn to talk or formulate your reply while they're still speaking.
That sounds simple, but hard to do consistently.
It takes practice, definitely, like any skill. But this consistent practice of bringing yourself back to the present moment, again and again, it significantly reduces that background hum of existential anxiety. It brings you right into your life as it's happening.
That's a powerful shift.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's really about embracing what is, the reality of the moment, rather than constantly wishing things were different or focusing on what we think should be.
Exactly. You've hit on a crucial concept there. It leads towards what's often called radical acceptance.
Radical acceptance sounds intense.
It is, in a way. It means fully acknowledging reality as it is in this moment, without resisting it or fighting against it mentally. Now, it's really crucial to understand it isn't about passive resignation or giving up. It doesn't mean you don't try to change things you can change, like injustice or harmful situations.
Okay, that's important. So it's not just rolling over.
Not at all. It's about stopping the internal battle with the reality that is currently present. When you stop fighting what is, you free up enormous mental and emotional energy. And paradoxically, that acceptance often opens the door to greater calm, clarity, and even spontaneous moments of joy, because you're not wasting energy in resistance.
Okay, I think I get that. Stop fighting the isness of things.
Yes. And this ties into another profound idea, highlighted by thinkers like Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. He suggested that happiness, true fulfillment, is often found as a byproduct of living with meaning and purpose, rather than by seeking happiness directly as a goal.
So don't aim for happiness, aim for meaning.
In essence, yes. Life doesn't have to be constantly happy in the superficial sense to be deeply valuable and meaningful. Finding meaning, whether it's through helping others, learning, creating something, loving someone, or even finding meaning through unavoidable suffering, as Frankl did, that's often the key to profound well-being. Happiness tends to ensue, as he put it.
Purpose over expectation. That feels like a completely different framework for living, doesn't it? It makes life less about climbing a ladder towards some future happy goal and more like walking a path. Or maybe like a river flowing.
Beautifully put. The journey itself becomes the point, not just the destination. Every step, every bend in the river, every moment holds significance in itself. And the really good news, going back to neuroplasticity, is that we can actively train our minds for this way of being.
We can rewire ourselves for meaning and acceptance.
The potential is there, yes. Our brain adapts to what we consistently cultivate, whether we cultivate distraction and rumination or attention and compassion. So consistent practice mindfulness, cultivating compassion, actively working to free ourselves from obsessive thoughts or harmful mental patterns can lead to tangible, functional, and even structural changes in the brain over time. It really is, as some sources suggest, a call to unlearn many of the things we've been taught about where happiness comes from and how to find it.
Unlearning. That feels right. Like peeling back layers of conditioning.
Absolutely. It's about dismantling those old, unhelpful mental habits and consciously forging new pathways, training our minds to prioritize presence, meaning, and acceptance over that constant, fleeting, external chase. The potential for this kind of profound transformation really does lie within all of us.
Wow. Okay. So after all this, what does it really mean for you, our listener? Perhaps the greatest adventure isn't actually finding happiness out there somewhere. But maybe it's realizing you've kind of been it all along, or at least that the capacity for it is right here, inside you.
It certainly encourages us, doesn't it, to look inward more often, to actively cultivate compassion both for others and for ourselves, and maybe to embrace the full spectrum of life's experiences, the joys, the sorrows, the challenges, knowing that true, deep well-being is more of a practice of acceptance, presence, and living with purpose.
And perhaps the most provocative thought we could leave you with today is this. What would your life actually look like, feel like, if you stopped constantly asking yourself, am I happy? Am I happy enough? And instead, simply allowed yourself to be, just be, right here, right now. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to our next episode.